Hi, everybody. I am so excited. Today I have a really close friend of mine. I've known her for, gosh, not to put an age number on us, but about 15 plus years. This is Miss Heather Fitzgerald, and she is the owner and CEO of Strategic Nutrition and Holistic Therapies. She's a registered dietitian, and we actually used to work together in one of the medical offices in California. So, hi, Heather.
Hi, how are you today?
I am well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. I would
Sure.
like to start by asking you to please take a couple of minutes and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and more specifically your experiences and successes as a business owner and an entrepreneur.
Sure. So as Bessela mentioned, I'm a registered dietitian and I'm a practitioner, a functional medicine practitioner, and I specialize in metabolic disorders, micronutrient and hormone deficiencies. That's kind of what my niche is in my business. And I've had a practice on my own since 2014. So it's been quite an adventure. Prior to that, I had been working in the industry, obviously, for a couple of decades. So I basically see clients on a daily basis. I do consultations and with both patients and also other practitioners. So that's the basis of my practice.
I love it. So let's talk a little bit about the process of how you went from the corporate world into building your own practice. I mean, obviously that wasn't an overnight success.
Right.
So could you take us briefly through the process of that? When did you decide and why and how?
Well, it was back in about probably 2012. I was feeling confined in my positions. I was working in tandem with physicians, but I was feeling as though I was limited in my ability to actually change the process or change how things flowed in the office, and including appointments and all of that. So it was just having been working in one place at that time for about 6 years, it was time for me to kind of go on my own. So I made a decision that in January of 2014, I would just go into my own practice. And then I had recently connected with a fellow colleague who's an MD, and he agreed to be my medical director for my business. And so that's kind of how it started. And it was literally like jumping into a pool because I went from having an established practice where I had all of these patients that were sort of funneled to me. And, I was, the advantage in my case was that I was able to, connect with all of my patients. The relationships were there. So about 90% of them came with me to my new practice and my new venture on my own. So that was big, but that wasn't everything, right? Of course, now instead of having a support staff to do scheduling and to place orders and all of that, I had to learn all of that on my own. So my transition was literally 1 week I was out, the next week I was on my own, and I just jumped in with both feet. And I knew what I was doing, but you always, you don't really know until you actually are doing it, what you're responsible for. And so, that was a bit of a learning curve. And I've gotten much better at it, obviously. But those are some of the challenges that all of us have to overcome in when we're new entrepreneurs. And I think that there's just you have to have the passion to do it. You really do. I mean, and I did. So that was what made it much easier. Especially when when you feel like almost like your time is up at a place and you're ready to go, but you just, one little thing can push you over the edge, and then you really have no choice, and then you're going. So that was me.
That's 100% right, especially right now. We're technically still during the COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting a bit of an echo, I'm sorry. especially since we're still kind of during this COVID process. I think a lot of people are experiencing some fear, and people are losing jobs, and people are now
Yeah.
thinking about repositioning and getting into their own businesses. Um, but a lot of them are afraid, and our whole topic and theme has been turning that fear into profit, or aka a functional business. So what would you say one big fear you had starting going into this process was for you, and how did you overcome that?
I think that's a great question. I think that one of my biggest fears was, could I do this? Am I able to actually run this on my own and do it and be in charge of, instead of a doctor paying me paying the doctor, for every industry, obviously there's different challenges, but my fears were just that, could I do this? Could I generate the clientele? Generally, I think that you have to believe in yourself. I mean, I absolutely believe in what I do. I believe in my ability to support people's health and help them prevent, the conditions, as well as just be thriving in their lives. So I think that, you have to have a passion for something. I mean, whatever your business is around, you've got to know what you're good at, and what that have confidence in that, even if it's one thing, it doesn't have to be 10 things. But based on your business, that, in what you design around that talent, you can always get support from other people or bring in other members to make it work. So I think that answered your question.
Yeah. Well, did you feel like you failed anywhere? And if so, how did you pivot to take that failure and make it successful along this process?
Well, I would say that I would maybe not use the word failure, but maybe tripped up. And we all trip up. I mean, in terms of, things don't always go as planned, whether it's a patient being unhappy, or it's a billing issue, or it's, the doctor not showing up because something came up. I mean, there's always areas, but, through those trip ups, or, if you want to call them failures, because I guess they are, you learn how to avoid those the next time, and you find ways to organize and structure your business so that you can literally, bypass any of those potential pitfalls that you may encounter, because life throws curveballs at you, and you've got to kind of play along. And people are generally pretty, easygoing about that. And it's especially if you have good communication skills. That's really important.
People's relationships is definitely everything. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned earlier, you had really good relationships with your clientele base, so you were able to take that with you and build from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's really the key, I think, because in my business, not that you asked me this, but it kind of goes into that. I haven't done any marketing or advertising. I've literally, my business has grown from word of mouth, from the patients themselves referring other people to me. Granted, I have maybe 1 to 2, maybe 3 other practitioners that occasionally refer me clients, like other doctors or specialists or therapists. But generally, my practice is built on my existing clientele, friends and family that they send to me.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. That was going to be my next question, because I wanted to ask what the biggest pillar for your business is of profitability, be it marketing, business development, sales, or mind and body wellness. And you kind of answer that. I guess in a way it's marketing. It's just word of mouth marketing, which is pretty.
And it's also, walking the walk, which is the mind, body, or the wellness component, because, in order to make a good impression, dietitian can't be 300 pounds. I mean, that's not going to breed much confidence in your clientele. But beyond that, it's also not just how you look, but how you, relate to your patients, with compassion, having understanding. I mean, being really present for that client is probably the number one thing. And, not everybody has that ability if they're not centered, in themselves. So it really starts with yourself. And so I do think that for me, it's the mind body aspect of it, the wellness component that you walk in with.
Well, speaking of that, we all have our routines. Do you have a specific morning routine you do to keep yourself in a
I
very
do.
space and intentional and
I do. And it's, I've built it over time, but generally I wake up, I have a cup of coffee, and then I do my 20 minutes of meditation that I do every morning. Sometimes it's my transcendental meditation, and sometimes I do guided, and sometimes I do chakra healing meditations. And then I do a little writing, and it's all about it's my manifestation writing. Because I do believe it's really important to have goals. If you don't have goals, where are you going and why are you working so hard? That's one thing I've learned over the years is like, I'm a great worker, but one day I woke up and what am I working so hard for if I don't have any goals? So that my morning routine really is set on that. And then I have breakfast, and sometimes I work out if I have time. Other times I just go right to work. Kind of depends on my day ahead. So that's what I do. It's pretty solid.
I love it. Yeah, I feel like if I miss my routine at any point, I can't get it quite together that day. So I have to go back and reboot.
It's very true. It really helps create stability in your life, both emotionally and physically. I mean, even when I'm away for a weekend, with friends going, away to Palm Springs or whatever I'm doing, I take that 20 minutes to do my meditation while they go out and, have breakfast or whatever it is, it's just my time. So I think you always have to make time for it. And it's what you prioritize, really.
Yeah. Well, can you do me a favor and define success? What does success mean to you?
Oh, success. Well, I think success is obviously financially being independent, making enough money to support yourself and then be able to thrive in your life. I also think success is just the idea of having more freedom of choice. So, when you're successful, you really, you can have money, but if you want to be able to set your schedule and balance your life in the best way possible. So I think of success as sort of the ability to have the choice to balance your day and not do things because we have to, but because we want to, and also because we have the room to switch things around because of the success we've built. So, but that takes time. It wasn't always that way. My nose has been to the grindstone for many years. And now, as I've established myself, I'm even transitioning my idea of what success is because I'm stepping it up to a new level. So, that involves, obviously each person has their own personal or professional goals. So I just think that success is always changing its definition for me, but the basics would be the ability to have more freedom of choice and also being financially successful.
I love it. You're right. It does. As we evolve and grow, you want to constantly have self-growth and self-development. So those ideas of what that looks like definitely change and transition as you go.
And so does your business. Your business, what you are what I was, aiming for 5 or 6 years ago is different than what I'm aiming for now. And that's based on not just my client load, but also what I feel is going to work for me. How much time do I have that's free, and how much more do I need, if that's the case? Because, otherwise, I'm like anybody else that, when they love something and you're committed to it, when you have your own business, you can become a workaholic. So that's where, finding that balance is so important. It's so important. And it's different for everybody,
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask you,
Sure.
Do you have any tips or advice for a first-time business entrepreneur or someone starting a business, especially, let's say, in your field, since that's what you're familiar with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that the most important thing is really the business structure. So what I mean by that is, how do you process through your client? Like when you get a new client, whatever bit, it could be health, it could be, any service industry for that matter. What you want to do is have a system. Okay. So I call them systems because, you know, it's not like you're treating everybody as, you know, it's not like the cattle call. That's not what I mean. What I mean is you've got to be organized. I think organization is one of the key aspects of being successful. Ask anybody who's, you know, built a business. They are pretty tight on their schedule and they have things done in a certain manner. It's like protocols that you develop for, in my business, like routing patients. When we get a new patient that reaches out, how do we respond? What materials do we send them? Is there you know, I actually have scripts for I now have an assistant, and my assistant has an actual script of the things to say, because if you have to keep, if you want to keep your business in the realm of what you're actually representing, you've got to be really specific, I think. So when you have other people then representing you instead of yourself, which was another transition for me, you've got to be able to delegate with confidence. And part of that is being organized and really literally sometimes writing everything down so that they actually know how to respond to these patients, because I consider each patient a piece of gold. And they're a person, and they've got health is you know, issues can be very vulnerable for people. So I'm very sensitive to that. So I think that organization and having sort of the nuts and bolts of your business plan of how you're going to, you know, run people through your program, your service, whatever it is key. Without that, you're going to just flail, you know.
100%. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
You're
Anything
very
else
welcome.
you feel the need to let us know before we wrap up today?
No, just keep at it. Just keep your head to the grindstone. Don't give up. Nothing comes easy, as we all know. It takes a lot of work and a lot of time. But if you do that and you believe in yourself, it'll happen. It'll happen for sure.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview with us for this Business Mastery Summit, and I look forward to having you again.
Thank you. It was a blast. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Okay.